ACEC is excited to announce that registration is now open for its fall conference taking place in Marco Island, Florida this October. That's right, after a year of Zoom and virtual meetings, we're excited to be bringing our fall conference back as an in-person event. And we can't tell you how excited we are to look forward to seeing you there in person for all of the content, networking, and education that the fall conference is known for. Log on to www.acec.org for more information. We can't wait to see you there.
Welcome to the Engineering Influence Podcast presented by the American Council of Engineering Companies and sponsored by the ACEC Life Health Trust. One of the biggest issues facing engineering firms, firm leaders, and really those of any company is how to manage the post-COVID business landscape. The pandemic changed huge swaths of how firms operated and how employees worked. Some of those changes will likely fade away, but many will stick. Figuring out which ones will continue to be beneficial is enough to keep leaders awake at night. Keith London, President and CEO of Kennedy Jenks, has joined us on the program to discuss what his firm is doing. Kennedy Jenks is a water and environmental firm with 400 employees nationwide and is 100% employee-owned. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So like many engineering firms, 2020 was a very profitable year for your firm. You said that you hit the highest profitability in 25 years. Which factors that contributed to that performance are you going to be able to keep, and which ones are you going to have to forego?
Yeah, so that I've been asked that question quite a bit from other firms that have heard our story. The first I want to say is it wasn't like 2020 was this miracle year that we got the highest profit of all time and it just happened. We had been working on profitability for a while. We've basically been focused on profitability versus growth for a number of years. And 2020 was a culmination of really good things that did occur. And the pandemic contributed to some of those things that made it easier for us. So one of the things that, and I break these down into kind of aha moments for us, is what did we see in 2020 that was unusual? One of the things was everybody felt connected to the organization in a way that was better than it was before because they all fit in a 2x2 square on a Teams or a Zoom call. And what I heard this from a lot of people is I really feel connected to the company in a way I never before because now the playing field has been leveled. I'm just as important in sitting in Montana as a person sitting in what our corporate headquarters is in San Francisco, California. So I actually think that contributed a lot to the collaboration and what we call crosstalk, the sharing of work across the organization. That was one. And the other thing that was a little surprising for us is we didn't see hardly any additional variances or project write-offs. I know a lot of companies saw some. We didn't see it. We saw productivity hang up there at a pretty high level. So we did get the benefit of travel costs were down, which a lot of companies saw. We saw increased utilization because people were not taking time off. And our multipliers held up and our project backlog all held up. We were considered essential, so that helped us. But the things that will go forward for us is we now can hire people in different states that we don't currently have work in and have them work on projects in other states. And we can do it almost seamlessly and collaboratively just through Teams. And we were fortunate enough that we had already started with Teams before the pandemic. And so we were just very fortunate in many regards. So that combination of people being able to work on projects, regardless of where they're physically located, and that ability to continue to work on backlog, good, strong backlog really contributed to having a really strong year. But the real thing that came through, and this will always be part of my theme, is we kept taking care of our employees and we trusted them to do the right things. One of our values is trust. And so when we put people out at home and we say you're safer at home working from home, we had to trust them, and that trust got paid back to us through better productivity. That's a hard thing for a manager to do, is trust that someone working from home is going to be as productive as they are working in the office because you can't see them. But that really worked out well for us. And we're going to continue going forward. We're going to continue with that trust factor with our people working in a hybrid work environment. And we can talk a little bit about that more, Jerry, as you want to.
Yeah, I think the higher productivity was seen across the board during this pandemic, which I think surprised a lot of people. What about lessons that you learned going forward that you can apply to your business that you learned either explicitly or implicitly from the pandemic?
Well, one is trust your employees, which is not really something you have to learn, but it got reinforced. Don't manage by exception, manage by the majority. In other words, you can trust 99.9% of your employees, then trust them. And we did that. We gave them tools to work from home. We gave them screens. We gave them chairs. We gave them flexibility. So that is probably the number one item going forward, is that management or micromanagement of people, ensuring that they're doing the right things at the right time. This is, in my understanding, or my definition of integrity, is doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. Trust is the same thing as trust your employees are doing the right thing even though you're not watching them. You can't physically see them. So that's number one. Number two is we don't need to travel as much as we thought we did. Clients have gotten very comfortable with having routine check-in calls with us in Teams environment. So we're not going to need to travel to see our clients as much as we used to. We're not going to need to travel to see each other as much as we used to. We're going to start traveling more and more. I'm already starting to see some of the offices and go and visit some of the offices, but I don't think we need to go back to the status quo where everyone needs to get on a plane to go see a client or an office. Conference attendance is going to change. I don't think we need to do that as much as well. I think we're going to see a lot more virtual conferences going forward. So that's one. Growth for us is a lesson we learned, that we can grow in a pandemic. We actually, so you introduced us as 400, we're 420. We've actually grown, and we continue on a pretty good hiring pace right now of adding additional staff to the organization. And I really think that growth in our markets, and with infrastructure coming forward, and hopefully it gets passed, there's going to be this opportunity for our industry to grow. I really see that as a possibility. And that's something that I thought we weren't going to be able to grow. I thought we were going to, in fact, I was concerned initially we were going to have to shrink, and I don't see that anymore. Another item for us as a lesson learned was we can locate staff anywhere in the United States and make them productive. The spin up, their onboarding and startup is a little challenging if they don't have somebody around them, but we can add staff in almost any state inside the United States and be able to get them productive pretty quickly. And so we're moving on with that. We're hiring people in, like I said before, we're hiring people in states that we don't have current work, but they're able to crosstalk work to them. Another item for us is we will continually be in contact with our staff. So one of the things that we learned that our staff really enjoy to us, we were over communicating. So we do things like, I have office hours every Thursday. I welcome every new employee in the company with a Teams call. And so I reach out to them and talk to them. We were doing surveys. We were doing monthly all staff meetings. And for the most part, that frequent interaction really resulted in favorable reviews by the company, by the staff. And we got our best employee survey response scores that since I've been with the company, and I've been with the company since 1997. That all occurred because our level of engagement with our staff went up. We were doing things that were specific to individuals. We were doing dinner and a movie. We sent Harry and Davids to people. These were all kind of unique things we did just to make sure that everyone felt engaged and appreciated. I really think that was one of the reasons for our success in 2020 is we were not doing one size fits all. We were trying to tailor this. I also think that we can be productive working from home and trusting that our employees, and you've heard me say this already in this conversation, that we can trust our employees to do the right things and believe that they will going forward. So I really think that our lessons learned is keep doing what we were doing. Don't feel the tendency to pull back and have people report to the offices immediately. And then just believe that the employees will always do the right thing.
You mentioned that you have office hours and the onboarding call. Is that something you're going to continue doing
Absolutely.
as you grow?
Absolutely. Yeah, the office hours things is very interesting. I've had a couple of CEOs ask about it. What I do is we've got a tool that any employee in the company can go in and they can schedule time. I reserve 4 to 5 hours on every Thursday. So employees can go in, click, and all they got to do is they reserve a 30-minute and they can talk to me about anything. Now, if it's something about them and their manager, I will refer them back to their manager. If it's something about their workspace as not being conducive to our workspace, I'll give them health and safety. But if they want to talk about where is the company going, what are you doing, what are we doing, anything about the future, anything about the past, anything about the present, I open that conversation, and that has gotten a lot of credibility inside the organization because it makes us more transparent. Now, if you're a 4,000 person firm, CEO is not going to be able to have office hours, but we're still in that magic number where I can do it. And it's been very, very, very productive.
And well subscribed, those hours are taken up?
Well, what's interesting is I have to keep reminding people it's okay. So we do a thing called Weekly Flow, which is just a weekly magazine or a statement from me. And every 3 or 4 weeks, I'm like, don't forget, office hours are available. And let me tell you a story about how someone called and we had a really good conversation about this topic. And when I do that, it breaks down the barriers of, do I really want to call the CEO? Should I really call the CEO? And so it's worked out. Yeah, it's worked out really well. I wouldn't say it's oversubscribed. There's still some concern by some people reaching out, but I usually get 2 to 3 phone calls a week. It's not 4 hours, but it's probably an hour and a half. Yeah, it's well subscribed.
In your Sacramento office, you've moved away from the traditional office setup towards a collaboration center concept in which all the staff have dedicated cubicles, but the offices are assigned by appointment. How's that working?
So it's still early. I'm not able to say that it's a wild success, although the initial feedback has been very positive. So KJ is using this approach is until the pandemic is over, until the public health officials say it is over. And I've described this for people that have gone through wildfires in the West Coast, is when there's a wildfire, when we had an office in Santa Rosa, and when there was a wildfire, some of the staff said, can we go back to the office? Until the fire marshal, until the state officials have declared that it's safe to return back to your home or back to business, it is not okay. And KJ has no authority to say it's okay. So we're not going to let you go back. I look at the pandemic as being exactly the same thing. Until the public health officials, whether it's the WHO, whether it's the CDC, whether it's the state of California, state of whatever, says the pandemic is over, we have declared it over, we are going to continue to tell people you are safer at home. And so the Sacramento office is a collaboration center. Is you want an office, you can sign out for an office. You want a cubicle, you're assigned a cubicle. If you want to use one of the huddle rooms, you can use the huddle rooms, but it's always going to be a hybrid. We do not, unless you have approval to do so, we do not want you back in the office every single day because you're safer at home. And so far, the feedback we've gotten is the combination of having huddle rooms, a dedicated cubicle, and access to offices, along being able to work in a hybrid environment of working from home has been very well received. But probably, Jerry, 2/3 of our offices are coming up for lease renewals in 2023. I don't have to worry about this for a while, but Sacramento is going really, really well. And I'll be happy to share more as we get a little further down the road, but the feedback is good. In fact, I'm probably going to go up and see Sacramento probably in the next 2 to 3 months just to check in and see if we can share an office space where we can get everybody together and be comfortable. But I'm still expecting that we'll use technology for people to sign in through Teams. So far so good, but I'm happy to share more later.
With the flexible office and work at home environment that you guys are promoting, which most people are still in, how do you balance that with the client needs, the desire for client may have a desire for face-to-face meetings or such?
So like a lot of firms, clients always come first. So we tailor our interaction with our clients based on their needs. And then we just simply have the conversation with their staff. So some clients at least initially, some clients like, there is no pandemic, you need to be in our offices. And we had to manage that one carefully. As we've gotten towards this phase, whatever phase this is, and I probably should have mentioned that we still call this a marathon. I did a presentation on this before. We still look at this pandemic as a marathon. We might be in mile 20 of 26, we might be in mile 19, but we're still running the race. We're running it with our clients and we're running it with our employees. And so with our clients, we ask them, how would you like for us to interact? If you want us to be face-to-face, how do we do that safely? And then if a client says, I really want you on the project site on this date, we go through a process internally to get approval to do that. So it has to comply with state requirements, county, city requirements, and we have to make sure that our employees are comfortable, because some employees are not comfortable being face-to-face, at which time we have the conversation with the client, we work that out. So it's really listening to our clients, which we all as consultants, that's what we're supposed to do, right? We listen to our clients, we find out what their needs are and what their interests are, and then we comply with them to the extent we can. Now, if you have a client that says, I want everyone face-to-face in a room, and the room's going to be, 10 by 10, we have a conversation with the client as we need to think about whether that makes sense or not, for your best interest and our best interest. But those conversations actually have been really, really easy. I still have probably half a dozen to a dozen client conversations every single month, just check-ins with clients. And I haven't had one say, when are you coming to see me? No, we'll just keep doing it by Teams. So it's going really well.
Your company is 100% employee owned. What impact did that have, do you think, on the reaction to the pandemic in your company and going forward?
So to be clear, we have no ESOP, we're direct share ownership, and we have no outside investors. So the 100% comes from about half the company are shareholders in the company. I think what happened was the goodwill that we created in how we managed the overall pandemic with our employees. The employee owners really stepped up and said, we are the connection between the organization and with our clients. And what I got was a lot more engagement from the employee owners. What else can I do? I feel like I'm part of the ownership here. I'm not picking a fight with private equity or publicly traded companies. They are what they are in an ownership model. But from an employee perspective, I got a lot more inquiries through office hours. I feel like I need to do more. What else can I do? And so I think it contributed, it was kind of hard to measure it, but I would say that just the level of engagement and curiosity and how the employee owners felt like they had skin in the game, they had a stake in the results for the organization. I really think it paid off in 2020, and even in 2021, we have a lot more active conversations with the shareholders than we probably had previously. Some of this is that by design, and some of it is they're just reaching out. So I think it had a lot to do with it.
On a broader scale, if you look at the entire engineering industry, firms adapted really well to the remote working model. Now that we're looking at this sort of hybrid working model, how do you feel like the industry will adapt to this?
Well, I think we've already adapted. The real question is, what do firms, so let's take everything from a smaller firm to a mid-sized firm like KJ to several thousand multinational firm. It's all going to be a different answer. And I'm not going to profess that we have the right answer. But I think a lot of us are going to be dealing with hybrids as kind of the standing order of business going forward. I know there are some companies like, I can't wait for my employees to get back so we can all work together in the office. And I'm just concerned that variants are going to keep that from happening on a kind of permanent basis or a near-term permanent basis. But I think as one as an organization and two as an industry, I think we adapted really, really well. When I talk to other CEOs, they did a lot of the things that we did, and I think they're going to continue having a hybrid environment. I think it's going to be successful. I think that a lot of our staff are going to really appreciate it. I'll give you an example of where I think this fits, and I think that our industry is good at it. I said the other day in an all-staff meeting, I announced that we were not going to be forcing people back in the office. We were safer at home. And I had a couple of of employees that have young children at home that basically said to me, thank you, because we don't have childcare available to us. The pandemic is not equally applied across the United States, and we're not sure we're going to be going back to school or not with our kids. And we really appreciate the ability to do that. I think that our industry is going to be really good at adapting to that. And I just think the hybrid's going to be here for a while. I don't know if I had to predict, I think we'll be in a hybrid. I think KJ will be in a hybrid environment for the next 5, 10, and possibly forever. 5, 10 years and forever. Other companies may do it differently. If you have a single office and you've got 20 employees, you may have to do it differently. But I think we're going to be in this hybrid environment for a while. And I think it's going to be good for us and our clients.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about this.
Right. Thanks, Jerry.
And you've been listening to the Engineering Influence podcast presented by the American Council of Engineering Companies and sponsored by the ACC Life Health Trust. Thanks for listening.